Today I'm going to talk about vocabulary. Vocabulary is the most important thing in language learning. In fact, if you are a language teacher, you are a vocabulary teacher. If you are a language learner, you are a vocabulary learner. Think about it this way. If you know a lot of vocabulary of a language and zero grammar, can you communicate with people? Yes, of course you can. You can say store, tomorrow, together, go. And anybody would understand that. Do you want to go to the store together tomorrow? If you know all the grammar there is to know about a language and almost no vocabulary, can you communicate with people? No, you can't. In fact, you could even say that grammar is vocabulary. You could treat grammar as vocabulary. For example, if you say, I went, grammatically went is the past tense of go, but you could just think of went as a piece of vocabulary that means go in the past. You could think of something like, have you ever, as from the time you were born until now, do you have the experience of doing this thing? And just remember it like that. Of course, that is an inefficient way of learning a language, but it is one way that you could think about a language. And actually, when you're teaching beginners and you don't want to give them a grammatical explanation of something, telling them to learn it as a piece of vocabulary is probably a good idea. Now, when I learn a language, I learn a lot of vocabulary and I learn some grammar, and then I learn I just change the words in the grammatical pattern to be able to communicate with people and say different things. I will share my way of learning vocabulary and the way I teach how to learn vocabulary in another video. What I want to do today is talk about how I do vocabulary tests in every class. So every class that I have, whether it's reading, writing, speaking, or whatever class, listening, every class has to learn vocabulary. What they do is they have these little vocabulary cards, word cards with a little ring on it. And they have to write English on one side, and in my case, Japanese on the other. Or Japanese on one side and English on the other, it doesn't matter. There are two ways now that I am doing vocabulary quizzes, and I'm trying out this new way to see if I like it better than my original way. The original way is this. At the beginning of every class, I'll give the students a few minutes, usually 3, and I time it with my phone to study their vocabulary cards. And then I say, okay, pair up and do a quiz. What they do is they will exchange cards. So they will randomly choose 10 words to ask the other student. They'll say usually the Japanese, and the answer is in English. The only exception to that is my reading class, where they will say the English and the answer has to be in Japanese. You can change it up every now and then if you want. If they don't know the word within a couple seconds, then they're instructed to say the answer and move on to the next word. And they give themselves a score out of 10 that they write on their name card. Surprise, surprise. It comes up in every video. The second way that I've been trying recently is the students don't test each other, they just test themselves. What they do is they take the ring out of the cards and they look at usually they look at the Japanese and the Japanese side, but in my reading classes they would look at the English side. And within 1 second, if they know the word, then they put it on the left side, and if they don't know it, they put the card on the right side, and they go through all their cards. Then they will, and this is from the class today, they will calculate their score out of 10 that they write on their name cards by doing this calculation. The number of correct words over the number of total words multiplied by 10 will give them a score out of 10. And when they're done, this is important, they put the words that they don't know well on top So the next time they look at their cards, they're starting with the words that they don't know well, because you don't want to waste your time on the words that you do know well. I also instruct them to take out, erase or throw away any word that has now become too easy for them. Because we don't want words that are too easy in our word list. We want words that we actually don't really know well in our lists as learners. So those are the two methods that I've been doing. There are advantages to each. The first one, it's interactive. And they're testing 10 words and they're choosing them at random, so they don't know what words are going to be chosen. The advantage of the second way is they're looking through all of their cards every time. They're testing themselves on every word every time. And in the second method, I started giving them time to study at the beginning. But then I thought maybe because they'll probably remember the order anyway that they're studying in, and then the test will be easy, I decided to stop giving them time to study. They're supposed to be studying their words for vocabulary, for homework, that's why. I tell them to study the words, at least once every day, just to look through the words. It only takes a few minutes. Because studying something, as you probably know, is better to do a little bit often. If you're playing guitar, it's better to play for 5 minutes 12 times during a week than it is to play once for an hour. Even my other students who test each other, I actually shouldn't give them time in class to study, but whatever works to help them learn the words better, it's fine. If the score is 10 out of 10 every time, it doesn't matter. The most important thing is that they're learning vocabulary. Where these words come from is really important. This is a genius idea on my part. What I do that I've never heard anybody else talk about is I have a textbook. So for classes with a textbook, what they'll do is, for example, first lesson of the class, obviously they won't have word cards and they won't have words written on them. But what I'll do is I'll give them the first chapter for homework, and what that means is they have to look at the first chapter and they have to look at every single word everywhere in all the explanations and everything, everywhere, every single word on every page of Unit 1. They have to find words that they don't know, write it, and then write the Japanese on the other side. What that does is makes the next class where we study Chapter 1 really smooth, because they've already studied, ideally, all the words. So it's not like really difficult explaining things to them. They already know the meaning of the words, or they should know them. Each chapter in this book takes, by the way, 2 classes to do. So by the second class, they really know all the words because they've studied and done tests with the words. So that's a great way of doing things. Every class that I have that has a textbook uses that method. The classes where I don't have a textbook, like my writing class, I will give them the corpus, like the first 1,000 most commonly used English words. I'll put them up on Google Classroom, and they have to go to that list and choose 10 words from that list, 20 words from that list to start off with, and then we add 10 at a time throughout the year. And not only the first 1,000, I usually put the first 3,000 words up, and my students can always find 20, 30, 40, 50 words from those first 3,000 that they don't know. And also, at the end of each writing class I tell the students to look through their dictionary history and find all the words that they looked up during that class while they were writing and add them to their vocabulary cards. So that's a great source also. Sorry, I just cut the video because the school chime just went. Anyway, I'm finished. That's how I do tests every class. Try it out, see how it goes, and let me know. Thanks for watching.